Konnichiwa. Shinjimae. Welcome to this week's episode of Cooking with Gnar. I am your sensei, Gnar, of course the host. And today we are going to be making, for our very first episode, Nissin top ramen. This one is the hot and spicy beef. I actually haven't tried this one before. I ran over to the grocery store, got some, and so we're going to be trying that today. So the first thing you're going to want to do with top ramen, like always, is you're going to want to get either a pan, because we're not going to be microwaving top ramen. That's not how you do it. So this is actually a big pan. I couldn't find any other pan. So we're just going to go ahead, go over here, and we are going to fill this up with water. So this is our very first episode. I think what we're going to be doing a lot more is more authentic Japanese cuisine. But I couldn't gather the ingredients, just got home from school. That's more of a dinner time thing for the more Japanese cuisine. If you want to see more of that, of course, you can subscribe. That's way too much water. Okay, that looks better. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fill it up to about just where the ramen would be. So I don't know if you can see it very well, but if the ramen comes up here, if the ramen comes up to the pot that much, you want to be about the same level. And so now what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the water on first. And we're just going to heat the water up to about, on your oven, you probably want to do it on high, because that's how it cooks fast. This is how you want to make fast ramen. Like, we're talking ramen before, you have to go to a concert, ramen if you just want to get home from school and have something to eat real quick. So this is how you make that fast-ass ramen. It's not going to taste the best because you're cooking it faster, but it's gonna be fast, and it's not gonna be as delicious, but it's still ramen, and ramen is ramen. You want to dive your sodium nonetheless. So actually, even if the water isn't boiling yet, you can still throw the ramen in here. You want to get those noodles soaked before it does start boiling. Just to get it cooking. And so you get the ramen out, just plop it in. So this part is optional. You can, of course, cook it with the flavoring. I choose not to. What I'll do is, once we're done straining everything, I'll put the flavoring in. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. We're gonna put the flavoring in. This is how you make good ramen, all right? You don't want to put it in afterwards. Normally I do that, but it doesn't always taste the same. So you're gonna want to put the flavoring in afterwards. Or not afterwards, I meant before. So we're just getting all that nice, tasty flavoring in. Gotta get that ramen all sexy. Ooh. Alright. Have our flavoring done. Now make sure you be a good human being. Do not throw this away. I'm talking about this. This, believe it or not, is recyclable. This is not. Don't recycle this. You'll kill a turtle, okay? Don't want to kill turtles. We're running out of them in Hawaii. So I'm going to go over to my recycle real quick. Alright. So we have our water getting all nice and warm, as you can see here. Doesn't that look delicious? Okay, so now for the next part, we're going to want to go ahead and grab a chopstick. This part gets important. So you want to grab a chopstick, and you just want to poke around at the noodles. And you don't want the flavor, you see how it's all in one big clump? You don't want to do that, because now all the flavor is just going to soak into one part of the noodle, and you're going to have maybe like 20 noodles that taste good compared to the whole thing. So you're just going to want to stir this around, get all of that yumminess soaking into the noodles. Maybe poke this a little bit, keep it submerged. Now the water should be brown like this. This is how about it should look. If the water isn't this brown, you're doing it wrong, all right? Make sure you get all those chunks of flavor. You don't want them to be chunky. You want them to be liquefied. We don't want the powder anymore. As you can see, the noodles are starting to break off, which is good. It means that this isn't a brick anymore, even though it still kind of is. So we just want to get this going. That's a nice sound. Yeah, I like that. So yeah, we're just getting all that powder into a liquid. And you want to make sure that the powder doesn't soak onto the noodles. Otherwise, like I said, you're just gonna have like maybe 10 noodles that taste good. I've done that before, trust me. I didn't stir it around and the noodles tasted like crap because this part was the only part that got flavor. It's a rookie mistake, and that's why I'm teaching you how to make good noodles. Now it's already starting to get warm, and with a few Japanese techniques, it'll get warmer even faster. I unfortunately cannot share those on camera. It would destroy your eyes and your sense of being. It's a Japanese secret. Okay, so now the noodles are starting to separate because they've been wet and they're kind of starting to get warm, so the noodles are going to start separating. So now you're just going to want to grab your chopstick again, or if you're white, you want to grab your fork, and you're going to want to start separating the noodles. Just stir them around, you know, get them all nice like that. They should, like the whole mass of the noodle should cover the top of the pan, like it's already starting to cover most of it, you see. Yeah, so you just want to keep separating those noodles. Make sure that you have nice, even distributed mass of noodles. You don't want any clumps. You don't want the noodles sticking to each other. When you put them in the bowl, it'll be a lot harder to separate them. So we're just going to make sure we do a nice job of separating the noodles. See how it's covering the whole thing? The whole thing. That's what we're going to want to keep doing. Already looking tasty. And as you can see, we're starting to boil a bit, which is nice. But we're going to want to cook it for some more time. So I'm going to use my Japanese powers again to start cooking it faster. So now it's really starting to get steamy. And as you can see, the ramen is starting to bubble over. So you don't really want the bubbles to start collecting on the noodles. Otherwise, the noodles are going to get all soggy. And we don't want that. We don't want the noodles terribly soggy. It's going to be really bad and you eat it. So we just want to pop all those bubbles, probably by stirring it around, since the bubbles have a large mass and they're millions of small little bubbles instead of 3 or 4 little big bubbles. Big bubbles. So we're just going to want to keep stirring this around. Slowly, a little fast, separate those noodles. Remember, you don't want big clumps, you want a large, even mass. You can really hear it now. It's getting all steamy and it's starting to boil. So you're just going to want to keep stirring like this and get all those bubbles out for a couple minutes. And we're going to let this stir for about 5 or 4 minutes. That's at least in white people times. In my times, it's milliseconds. Again, Japanese secret I cannot show on camera, but we're just going to keep stirring. Another thing to mention is while you're waiting for those noodles to boil and get ready for consumption, you're going to want to get a strainer and put it in the sink, because we're going to strain all the liquid out of the pan and we're going to put all the noodles in there. So make sure you have a strainer ready to go. So once it's physically obvious that most of the water has boiled into steam, you're going to want to grab your pot, make sure you turn off your oven. You don't want to keep it running in case of a fire hazard. We don't want any accidents. So you're going to come over, you're going to grab your pan, make sure that you're being very careful with it. I'm not using an oven mitt, but you probably should, especially because metal conducts heat very well and you don't want to burn your hands or your arm, because if you burn your hands, there's a good chance you could drop it, and if you drop it, you're risking getting all of your clothes soaked in boiling water, and that might cause a burn. So we're going to grab our pan and we're going to put all of the noodles through the strainer. Make sure you don't miss any, because you don't want to lose any. Okay, so we're just pouring that through. Get all the noodles in there. Alright. So this is totally optional. You don't have to use the strainer. I choose to because ramen is better without the liquid, in my honest opinion. I know it's not technically the authentic way, but this is an authentic Japanese ramen. This is Nissin, and what they do is they commercially sell to the United States. And so, authentic Japanese ramen is for a different episode. Like, that's going to be decked out with soft-boiled eggs. We're going to have our vegetables. We're going to have everything there is to authentic Japanese ramen. This is just the Nissin top ramen, and this is how I make it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab a bowl. Doesn't matter if it's plastic or glass. It all works the same. And we're just going to dump our noodles in. And as you can see, we still have a good portion of the liquid because the strainer didn't get all of it. Most of it is in the the bowl, or it was stuck in the noodles. So we actually do still have a good portion of the liquid, which is why. Because if you're pouring from the pan to the bowl, you have way too much water. And you don't want to overflow the bowl, and that will just cause a big accident on your counter, and we don't want that. And now you're just going to grab your fork, and we can enjoy. So this is the finished product. We've obviously got our bowl of ramen here, looking delicious. We've got a bottle of Gatorade. I'm also making a bowl of rice, but that's for a different episode. I'm going to show you how to make rice probably next week or one of the few next coming weeks. So our next episode will be next weekend, where I probably make a bowl of rice. And that'll be it for this episode. Arigatou, sayonara.